Hello, YTPC. Joshua Stewart, Pipe Up North. Well, if you saw the thumbnail, it's not clickbait. I was up north last weekend, and on Saturday afternoon, I ran into town for a little while, and there's this little, like a secondhand antique shop that I like to visit once in a while. And a huge place, and they've got a little section that's got some tobacco related stuff. So I like to usually check out that. And they had a couple of pipes and a whole bunch of tobacco tins, probably 50 tobacco tins. I mean, most of them were Prince Albert and Velvet, but at least they had a few. And they had a few other ones too that were actually pretty interesting. But there's one that caught my eye. Well, maybe more than caught my eye. I grabbed a hold of it. Felt like there was something in there. I opened it up. It wasn't sealed. The tax stamp had been broken. I opened it up, and it was about half full. It smelled delicious when I opened it. So it's like, I think I'm going to take that home with me. Price was right. This tin is in spectacular condition. The only imperfection that I can see is this little tiny dent right here that may have happened when they put it in the bag, because they weren't exactly super careful, and I'd bought some tools, and it might have bumped against some of those tools. But otherwise, I don't hardly see a scratch on the thing. You may say, Josh, how do you know it's over 80 years old? Going by that tax stamp there. Well, I've already read it, but let's see if I can get it to focus for you guys there. I don't know if it'll focus or not. This is October 15th, 1940. It makes us almost 85 years old. I have no reason to believe it's not the original stuff in there. This is the same store that I picked up. I don't know if you can see it back on the shelf back there. It's kind of behind a few other things. I got a Gavin's that was, I believe that one was actually sealed when I got it, and I cracked it open, but it was dried out. And this stuff, it's crispy. It's dried. But we're going to smoke a little bit here, just to give it a try. I did rehydrate it for about 24 hours, but it's still pretty dry, so we'll see what we get here. Hard to say. I did go on tobacco reviews, after I got it home and started doing a little research and stuff on it. And there they said that it was discontinued probably in the late 50s. But one of the reviewers said that he knew that it was made for a little while longer than that, because in 1962, when he was underage, he bought a can for himself. Unless, I suppose it could have, if they quit in 59, it could have been 3-year-old stock, but I kind of doubt back at that time that they would hold on to inventory for that long. And until I saw that tax stamp, the cancellation date on there, I figured that can was probably from the 50s or 60s. But tobacco reviews, I think they said that this is primarily a Virginia blend, but it's unless it's just the fact that it's so dry. It tastes a little bit more like a burley to me. No, I'm not going to rehydrate the whole can, but I am going to rehydrate probably enough for 3 or 4 bowls. Just to see what it's like. And because it's so dry, I don't know if it was originally like a kind of a fine cube cut or if it's just from, you know, being shaken around in the tin a little bit that it broke down into kind of a cube cut. Very fine cube cut at that. I can't say that I'm picking out a whole lot of flavor. But I don't think I've done anything more than just the initial light yet. It's been staying lit pretty good. Maybe I got to slow down a little bit more and being it's so dry. Well, I think this is going to stay lit pretty good. So might as well, so we're codger and a corn cob and tobacco tin Tuesday. Our codger and tobacco tin are one and the same. So my corn cob, we just got a regular Missouri Meerschaum Legend bent stem. These things are kind of my go-to pipe that if I don't really know what pipe I want to use, I grab one of these. I've got, I don't know how many I have, probably half a dozen of them that are within reach. That a couple of them are dedicated to non-aromatics, a couple of codgers, and 1 or 2 are just for whatever. Did do a relight there. Probably could have got by without it, but so anyway, being this is not a tin from my mother's collection, we'll maybe do a twofer Tuesday. Twofer codger and a corn cob and twofer tobacco tin Tuesday. We'll go with it today. So at that same store, like I say, among all the tins that they had another one that kind of caught my eye. Not in perfect shape, but it's displays nice from across the room. I've shared a tuxedo before, but this one is a round one. And it was cheap enough I couldn't hardly let it go, because I've always thought that these tuxedo tins, they were had to have been about the coolest looking semi-common tin out there. Now this one does not have tobacco in, but still kind of a cool looking tin. One thing I find interesting with some of these old tins, they don't have how much tobacco is inside the tin. Or at least some of the older ones don't. So I don't know when they required to actually start putting the volume or weight of the contents on them, but anybody know, would that have been like in the 60s or 70s or 50s? Who knows? Because apparently in 1940 it wasn't required, because I don't see anything that indicates volume. Although the tax stamps they usually did. I didn't check that out yet. Let me see if I can, on what's remaining of this tax stamp, if there is a weight. Just looking at the size of this tin, I'd guess it's probably a 10 or 12 ounce. All I can make out is U.S. internal rev. Bureau of Engraving and Printing, and number 25, October 5th, 1940. There's the remnants of an 11 up there, so I wonder if that was maybe 11 ounce. Or if that was maybe the series number that would have been. Because a lot of times those are 3-digit numbers, and I think they started at like 100 or 110 or something like that. So well, then as long as I'm sharing my hole, got a couple other things too. Say they had a bunch of pipes there, and they had a K Woody that, since I kind of like the K Woodies, I was tempted, but they were asking a little bit more than I thought they should, and you know they'll deal with you a little bit on stuff, but I didn't want to be insulting with my offer, so I just left it lay. And there was another pipe there that I thought it was a meerschaum. But then I got looking at it closer. I've actually never held a meerschaum pipe in my hand, I don't think. This one, it was kind of your traditional billiard shape. I mean, yeah, I got my, I mean, this isn't it, but it was, you know, just your basic straight billiard shape. And it looked like a slightly yellowed meerschaum, but it was darker at the top, and then it was kind of even on the rest of the bowl and the stem, and then it had a yellow or stem, I think that's what it is. Anyway, the stem itself was yellow-ish. But when I held it, it seemed like it was a little bit heavier than what I thought a meerschaum would be, because I always thought that people said that meerschaum pipes were so light. Then the way the coloring was, I would have expected a meerschaum to be coloring more on the bottom of the bowl first rather than the top. So I think it was actually a ceramic pipe, and when I came to that conclusion, I left it sit. If it would have been a meerschaum, I'd have bought it. And tell me if I'm wrong, if it was a meerschaum and I should have grabbed it. Because for the price it was, if it was meerschaum, and the condition it was in, which was pretty decent, it was probably well worth it. But and there was some cake and stuff in the bowl too, and I don't know, do meerschaums, I would think anything would cake, wouldn't it? I don't know, I've never done a meerschaum before. And there's, like I said, there's probably 10 pipes or so that were on the shelf there. But then there was another one that I did get that caught my eye. And a little miniature, like a peace pipe. And the tag calls it a trapper's pipe with a bone stem and pipestone bowl. And the stem just fits in there. I don't know if I'll actually smoke this one, but it doesn't fit real tight in there. But I don't know, is this actually, I never did verify if it's actually bone, but could be. I don't know. But if this one was interesting enough and cheap enough that I couldn't pass it up. Like I say, I don't know that I'll actually smoke that one, but it maybe can give me some inspiration. I'm sure many of you have seen my video that I made early on that had where I was smoking my homemade peace pipe with the chunk of pipestone that I got in Pipestone, Minnesota. Legally, I bought it. I didn't quarry it because I don't have enough Native American in me to be allowed to actually quarry it. But I did buy 2 chunks, and the second chunk I can probably make a little pipe like that out of it that I will smoke. And if I wanted to follow along the lines of that one, it's easy enough to get some bone someplace. Then, I guess as long as we're at it, I got one more bonus to share from my antique secondhand store trip. In that same section, well, I bought a whole bunch of stuff besides just tobacco stuff when I was there. But from the tobacco section, since this is kind of what we're talking about, there was a more modern tin sitting there. This one, many of you have seen it, and it's like, they probably want like $20 or something for that. And I looked at it, and it was priced $1. And there again, had a little weight to it. So I opened it up, and it was almost full. Now I've taken it out, and I'm rehydrating the tobacco right now because that was crispy, bone dry too. But you get a tin of tobacco for $1, can't hardly pass that up. And the date on there, I believe that's 2023, so not terribly old. How it ended up in an antique store after a year and a half, who knows? But like I said, I was up north last weekend. Intent was to do some snow removal. And I like to have backups and then backups to the backups for things, and snow removal is one of them. So, and especially when you've got older equipment like I do, you kind of have to have a backup. So my main tractor, it's a 50-year-old international utility tractor. It's got the 3-point mounted snowblower on the back, then it's got a loader bucket and stuff in the front. So I was planning on using that to get rid of the snow, because, well, when I got up there on Friday night, there was about maybe 6 inches or thereabout of snow on the ground. And they were expecting another 2 or 3. So originally I was planning on blowing during the snow, but then it seemed to be coming down a little faster than just 2 or 3 inches. So I thought, well, I'll wait till it slows down this afternoon and then blow it. Well, it never slowed down in the afternoon. And I don't have lights on the tractor, so I didn't really dare do it at night. So I got up on Sunday morning, was going to go out and blow snow. And long story short, the tractor wouldn't start. The issues that it had been having in previous years, that's been fixed, but now there's something else that won't let it start. Probably something real simple, but I think it was a fuel issue. But by this time, I'd been fighting it for a couple hours, and I drained down the battery, and then I got my little jump pack that I never leave home without my little jump pack. So I put that on there and cranked it a little bit with that, but that jump pack really only has just enough to crank it, a couple of times to get it to pop off, and so that went dead right away. Then I thought, well, I'll recharge the jump pack and do some other little chores in the time being. So I let the jump pack charge for probably a hour and a half, which is enough to get it about half or 3/4 charged. Went back and cranking, it still didn't start. Didn't even get a fire out of it. Of course, by that time the jump pack was dead, so brought the Suburban over to give it a jump start, and had 16-foot jumper cables, and I got it in one of those, what do they call them, shed in a box or something, basically a tent garage that I keep it in, just to keep it out of the weather, because it sat outside for a couple of years, and it finally said enough of that, it's going to be covered up. So I pulled up, and my 16-foot jumper cables were about 2 feet short, so then I kind of had to refigure where I put the car, and trying to get as close as I could, I hit the corner of the tent shed and bent one of the poles. On the plus side, when I stretched out the jumper cables, they were able to reach. So anyway, kept cranking and kind of fiddling with a few other things, and finally I gave up and, well, enough fighting this, go to the backup, which is a walk behind snowblower. Go and give that just a slow crank, just to, you know, because I haven't run it since last winter. So gave it a crank, and I was going to give it a couple of cranks just to get the oil splashing around a little bit before I actually fired it. So one crank, okay, go to pull it again, nothing. The recoil busted on me. So okay, that's my backup. Then my backup to my backup was a four-wheeler, which I don't know if I mentioned, but our 2 inches of snow that we were supposed to get ended up being more like about probably 8 or 10 inches. So we got over a foot of snow. A four-wheeler with a snow blade doesn't do a foot of snow very good when you got a long driveway, especially that initial push. And so I was like, heck with it, I'll just save it for next time. Or maybe I can call one of the neighbors to come over with a bobcat or something and clear it out the rest of the way. So that's a story of my weekend. Oh, if you stuck around this much, we got another bonus. My wife hit a deer on Friday night. Took it to the body shop this afternoon to just kind of get a ballpark estimate if it's going to be worth turning it into insurance or not. Because say we got a $1,000 deductible. You know, try to save premium a little bit. And well, yeah, we were well over $1,000. They were estimating probably at least 4,000, if not more, for. Ends up being a couple of the bumper and a fender are going to need to be replaced, headlight, and I was talking to the guy on the phone because my wife brought it out to the body shop, and he's rattling all these things off: $800, $1,000, $600, and I imagine plus labor and stuff on top of that. So when I'm done here, I'll have to go online and file the insurance claim for that. So anyway, fun weekend. So with that, we're running way long on this one, but appreciate you hanging out. This is Joshua Stewart, Pipe Up North. Have a good day.